This is Shaken, episode 160, Golden Mike Live. I am so stoked about this one, not because I'm an empath, not because I'm a highly sensitive person. I am none of those. I'm a highly unsensitive person. I'm unempathetic, but I know a lot of you watching are highly sensitive. I know that you're very empathetic, and so we have someone who not only works and coaches empaths and not only other among other people, but we have someone who wrote a best-selling book, Thrive in Your Healing Business, Do the Work You Love. Oh, look at her! Hold that book up, Glidden. Thrive in your business, and the tiny little words say, do the work you love without sacrificing yourself. We have best-selling author and coach, the wonderful Heather Glidden, who told me not to talk about when she murdered someone in the streets of Philadelphia when she was a kid, so we won't go there today. But
not today.
But moreover, is working with empaths to talk about not burning out, doing what we're passionate about doing, not holding ourselves back. I love this topic. Again, not because I think I'm an empath or anything like that. I'm not. I'm not an empath. I'm not an HSP. I'm not any of those, but I know a lot of you watching are. Heather Glidden, welcome to the show. It's good to talk to you.
Thank you, Mark. It's awesome to be here.
And congratulations on the book. Now, for those of you who know Heather and are just tuning in to watch her talk, yes, she has amazing things to talk about. The interviewer, my name is Mark Cordone. I'm a positive psychology coach, founder of the Make Money coaching program, co-founder of the Joy Revolution. But more importantly, I've got the easiest job in the world. Because as a positive psychologist, I just ask two things of people. Yo, you want an easy job? Find your passion. And maybe be a positive psychology coach. Because the two questions are this. How happy are you today? And then number two, how much are you living in your purpose and meaning? So Heather Glidden, it's a double-barreled question. How happy are you today, my friend? And how much are you living in your purpose and meaning?
I am this much happy.
I love it. I love that she already did the wow face.
I know. I am supposed to save the face for in a moment, but you know,
it's okay.
We've got it preloaded, so there you go. And how much am I living in my purpose? Every day more, and it's amazing.
Amazing. That's amazing to hear. Yes, they're hitting the heart button. I love the fact that you guys are hitting the heart button. For those of you living in your full purpose, for those of you who feel like you're living in your full meaning today, this Thursday, June 6th, give us that heart. How do you make the heart beat up there in the Midwest? See, I put a lot of shoulder into it. You're like kind of pushing. Oh, now you're going back. I'll keep up with you, Glidden. Now, here's the other thing. Positive psychology. Glidden knows this part. You could probably riff this off, right? So, like, positive psychology is not about the craps and giggles 24/7. It's not about Glidden riding through the sky, dropping Skittles on the universe, right? That's fun. But that's not what positive psychology is about. And that's not what life's about. A lot of life is about the ups, the downs, and the all-arounds of life. It's about handling the certain emotional and experiential challenges that we chose to take on when we took on these meat suits, right? So, like, for those of you who are also like, yo, Glidden, yo, Cordone, it's Thursday, and I'm not feeling happy today. I don't know why, I'm just off. Or I've been in this job for 30 years, or I'm an empath coach doing my passion, and I'm burning out. That's cool. That's part of your hero's journey. Hopefully one day you'll be telling your story if you're not telling it right now. So give us a thumbs up. Let us entertain you. Let this wash over you. I can do it too. I can let this wash over you, and maybe something might stick. Finally, Glidden already did it. We're going to talk about hope, and I'm not talking about that wishful thinking type of hope. I'm talking about that type of hope where you set a vision in front of you, it becomes clear, and then you take imperfect action on a daily basis towards that vision. That's hope. It's as powerful as IQ, and it's as powerful as EQ. So if you're feeling hopeful, I know that you guys are hitting that love button. Thank you. If you're feeling hopeful, there's another button down there. It's called the wow face, and Glidden and I are going to demonstrate what that wow face looks like right now. Let's do it, Glidden. Amazing! Amazing! I could put a whole apple in there. I could put 5 of your books in there. Glidden, thank you for playing along. That was like you're a great sport, and let's go right into this right now, because this idea of empaths it's really huge in the community right now. And so I want to know, even before we talk about empaths in general, what is your specific story?
Yeah. So I was born in a mountain village in Italy. No, I'm kidding. I'm not going to start. Had you scared for a moment, didn't I?
There was this thing called the Big Bang. That's year 1.
All right.
Were you really born in a mountain village in Italy?
It's an inside joke with my husband and I.
Okay, right on.
It's just a thing that comes up. So now anytime I start stories, I think about like going all the way back to the beginning of everything. You don't actually need to do that. So I was a dancer growing up. Mm-hmm. And dance was my passion. And it was like my whole vision for my life is I was going to be a professional dancer. And it was kind of like my North Star. And when I was a teenager, I developed unexplained abdominal pain. And we couldn't figure it out. I went to many, many doctors. I lost track after like 20 or something, how many doctors I'd seen. And we couldn't figure out how to get this pain to go away. So eventually, the pain was triggered by movement. So eventually I actually had to quit dance entirely because it was just too physically painful to dance. And this left me really directionless. I really didn't know what I was going to do with my life at that point. So I went to college. And I was actually a math major for a while. And I only mention that because that'll come back later. There'll be a little callback to that. But
look at you, like the Tarantino of interviews.
But so I was a math major because I could do math, but I didn't love it. It was definitely not my passion. And I was just trying to grasp at straws for whatever I could do at that point in my life. So I kind of had a breakdown. And I declared an independent major in dance studies. And I seriously think the only reason my college approved this was because they smelled the desperation and they were like, if we don't approve this independent major in dance studies, we're not getting her tuition money anymore. So we're going to approve it.
Exactly.
I saw them turn
systems theory.
much less sensible suggestions from other people who like had more of an idea of what they were doing with their lives than that. But they approved that. So I graduated.
There was no like dance major in your college?
No, I went to a liberal arts school.
Okay.
Pretty much what they value is what's in your head, not anything that you do with your body, really. So I had to create this dance studies major from like Greek art and architectural history and like write a paper about reconstructing Greek dance based on faces or, like that sort of thing. Like I really figured out how I could just use the system to whatever I could.
Now you still had the recurring pain that would come back?
So, funny story, it actually went away after I went to college. And there's like, this could be a whole other story, right? Like I have so many theories about this. But I had a kidney stone, and after that, I just didn't ever have any pain again.
Yeah.
So
okay.
Yeah. So interesting, right?
Yeah.
But at that point in my life, I had this belief that like now it's too late. I missed all these years of dancing. I don't know how I'm going to get back to it. So I graduated college with an independent major in dance studies from a liberal arts college. And like, who hires someone with an independent major in dance studies from a liberal arts college? Right? You know who hires that person is someone who has a day spa and needs a receptionist at minimum wage.
Yeah.
That's who hires that person. So that is the job that I got. And I am so grateful for this job. Now I'm grateful for it. At the time, am I allowed to use language on this show?
Apologize after.
It was the shittiest job. Oh my gosh. Sorry for the language. It was terrible. So this is somebody who I was a dancer. Like it's still in my soul. You can see how like I move around.
Yeah,
My heart's
totally.
around. This is there. So I sat in a chair. I got in the morning. I did the cleaning. I opened up, and then I sat in a chair from 8 a.m. till 7 p.m. every day. And I wasn't allowed to use my brain, and I wasn't allowed to move. I wasn't allowed to take breaks because my boss did not believe in labor laws.
Okay.
I was there 50 hours a week, and I did not get paid overtime because my boss did not believe in labor laws. Okay. And I was like in that young and naive enough stage where I didn't know that I should stand up for myself and be like, listen, if anyone is listening to this, there is such a thing as labor laws, and you were allowed to stand up for them.
Glidden on labor laws.
Yes, you get a whole well-rounded education from this show today.
Yeah.
So I was just like, what? I can't do this. I have, what can I do? What
How
skills
far
do I
in
have?
were you with? How far in were you at this point, like with this job, where you were saying this to yourself?
Like 2 days in, I was already saying. So here's the thing with this job. I was there for 2.5 months total. And I look back on it and it still feels like I was there for 10 years.
10 years. Yep.
You know, it's one of those where it's like the how it felt was totally out of proportion. And honestly, the effect it had on my life was totally out of proportion of the amount of time it took.
Yep.
So I was like, all right, well, Pilates. Pilates is something I studied as a dancer. I taught it a little bit in college. I could get trained as a Pilates teacher. I could at least make enough money on the side that I could quit this horrible job and I could do something better. Mm-hmm. So I went out and I found a Pilates teacher training program and I started doing the training. And the first thing I realized almost immediately after entering this training was people do this for a full-time job. Oh my gosh, it had never occurred to me. I only ever thought of it as something I would do on the side. So then my entire goal became to become a full-time Pilates teacher.
Amazing.
Build that and have that be my whole thing, because that would be like the best life ever. And so then we'll fast forward a bit, and I land eventually having my own studio, having a full-time practice, teaching Pilates. I actually ended up having a client come to me who is a really well-known osteopath in my town, and he became a great referral source. And so he was sending people to me like crazy. This is shortcutting my whole business journey, but I got there. I arrived. Yeah. And this is actually where the story starts, because I had everything I thought I wanted. Yes. I was exhausted.
Okay.
I was exhausted all the time. So I had what I thought I wanted, and I was like, I'm not going to be able to keep doing this. Shit, am I going to have to go back to working at the day spa as a receptionist? Like what? This is terrible. Yeah. I want to do this work. And I just I don't have any time for myself. At the time I do have for myself, I feel like I'm not even me. I don't really even know who I am anymore. Can't connect with anything I used to enjoy with. I'm losing my temper with my husband all the time. Yeah. I feel worried and stressed all the time. I have what I thought I wanted, and it's not what I want.
Yeah,
so
it sounds like life, like your dream life, became a series of to-do lists, and no time to yourself, and you were like kind of disengaged.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, so I'm like 28, and I've built my dream life. And it doesn't feel anything like I thought it would, and I feel like I won't be able to keep doing this. For sure, I'll crash.
So did you go on any kind of search, or did you try to, what did you try to do to remedy that energy?
Yeah, so I started doing a lot of things. So I did a life coach training was first.
Okay.
And so I did a life coach training, and I kind of was doing it partly for work I would do with other people, and also partly for myself, as I think usually happens with people when they're doing life coach trainings. And so I got a little bit more information about choices I was making in my life and all that kind of stuff. And then I was didn't really implement it. I only kind of implemented it. I kind of still thought maybe having a good life was for other people and I could help other people have it, but maybe not me,
Okay, so what came about from life coaching is I can help even more people now with this drained self I am.
This is So then I was like, all right, so maybe I need to do a little less work at my studio. So then I was like, what if I had a studio partner? And so I partnered with somebody else to have a studio. But then what happened was my studio partner was like, great, now I have somebody who can handle all the studio duties for me. So then
Ah,
I was doing extra work
yeah,
to take over. Like, we had now a larger studio. There was more work. I was doing even more work to manage a larger studio.
brutal.
And I was still seeing so many clients and I was still exhausted. So I was like,
Yeah,
oh, shit, okay, so that didn't solve it. So then I started being like, okay, well, I just need to like change my whole business model or my structure or like this. So I started studying marketing and I started studying like different business models and I changed around my whole practice and like my rates and my hours and all of that. And that was a little better because I got more space in my schedule. But this is where I discovered really what the true problem was. Is once I had more space in my schedule, I became 100% aware that like I didn't even know who I was anymore. Like all of a sudden I had all this time to myself and I was like, okay, so what would you do if you could do whatever you wanted with this time for yourself? And I was like, I don't know.
yeah.
I would put clients back in it because this is like way too unfair. Well, and I just recreated the problem for myself again.
Yeah.
And so, I just kept going through these different waves until I was finally like, oh, okay. I like, it's all of these things. All of these things need to happen. Like the different choices need to happen and the clearing out of other people's energy. Because this is what happens with empaths is they take on other people's energy and other people's beliefs. So it becomes very hard to make clear choices that are aligned for us.
Yeah.
And I see this happen a lot.
Yeah.
Where it's like you're trying to make the life that you want, but at some level you're still making the life that is convenient to other people because you feel so clearly what the other people want.
Now you just dropped the big E word for on your
I know, we
identity,
just
right?
started to bridge a little bit.
You just dropped the E word. So all of a sudden, like, the empath shows up in you, or the recognition that there's an empath part of you. When did this part emerge?
So that part was always there, and I just didn't really realize because what was happening is that when I was making all of these choices, so many of the choices I made, the choices to overbook myself and see way too many clients, or the choice to go back to that after I had free time for myself or whatever, so much of it was about like other people, making other people feel good. Because when you're an empath, you feel what other people feel. And so by making other people feel good, then I felt that, and then I got that feeling. And it wasn't really about understanding what made me feel good and making choices from that perspective. So I didn't know I was doing this at the time. It just kept sort of reflexively happening that like if my partner wanted me to do work, it made her happy when I was fulfilling that role. So I would make her happy. It's a way that empaths can end up in kind of dysfunctional relationships sometimes just by sort of fitting themselves around what they feel the other person wants. Because when they make somebody else unhappy, they feel that unhappiness.
They feel yep.
Yeah.
Now,
so it's,
I wanted to throw this piece out for a second because you're giving a clear delineation of an empath, right? Kind of taking on people's stuff, right? Kind of unconsciously, right? I've heard the word empath being used in, this is pre-show notes, right? Being used, it's synonymous with healer. I've heard it being used synonymous with highly sensitive person, right? I've heard empath and psychic or clairaudient or clairvoyant being used together. Like, what specifically makes empath different than all of that? Because, like, I'll see someone who's like, I'm all of it. I'm an empath. I'm a healer. I'm a this. Well, then what makes an empath different?
Yeah. So there are a lot of different definitions out there. And so the definition I work with for empath is empaths can be highly sensitive people. Highly sensitive people can be empaths. There's a lot of crossover there.
Oh, the math person starts dropping Venn diagrams on me.
You see, I told you there would be callbacks. There is a part of my brain that just works this way. But I would define an empath as somebody who is sensitive to the energy of others. And that can mean emotional energy. That can mean the thoughts of others, the beliefs of others. It can also mean physical symptoms. This is something that happened to me a lot when I was working with my clients and teaching them movement. If they came in and their knee hurt, then I would go home and my knee would hurt. It wasn't because of any physical cause. They would literally take on their physical symptoms. But it can. There are so many different ways of picking up on that information. So it can be physical, it can be emotional. You can have like clairaudience where you're understanding, like hearing things. I would say that's a little bit more towards what we would call psychic gifts, which is sort of ways of receiving information beyond just like physical or verbal.
Or just a human thing too, human to human.
Right, exactly.
Okay, gotcha.
And there's a big overlap, again, in our Venn diagrams between psychic gifts and empathic gifts, but empathic gifts specifically have to do with taking on beliefs, thoughts, energy, emotions, physical symptoms from someone else. It's like you actually feel what they feel, or you can take on the thoughts that they have.
Sorry to cut you off. But what were you specifically experiencing that you didn't know? Like, so you were talking about like someone would come in with a knee issue. The next thing you know, you got a cranky knee. You know, like so definitely physical stuff, but like it sounds like emotional things as well. Like when you were talking about like when someone would feel anger, you'd feel it too, and you wouldn't want to feel it, right? So emotional. What were other things that you were realizing?
Yeah, so I would say I would have aspects of all of these things. You know, like I was in my training ground. I was in my training ground to be able to help other people with all these, so I probably got to experience all of them. But I would say the things that I hear that people usually are most aware of when I talk to other people who are empathic, they're very aware of the physical symptoms if that happens for them. They're very aware of the emotional thing. All my clients come in and they're cranky, and I come in and I'm in a great mood, but then I go home and I'm really cranky, and it's like it doesn't even feel like it's my crankiness. It's not like something happened that I'm cranky about. It just like all of a sudden I'm like in a bad mood with everyone. That sort of thing.
Interesting.
So that happens. There's this other one that I see happen that's a little more insidious that people are often not aware of when it's happening, which is more about taking on other people's thoughts and beliefs. So if you're empathic and you're around somebody who believes that you are a bad person, or you're manipulative, or you are a negative person, or whatever, you will start to believe those things about yourself without them even saying it.
Dude, that can seriously fuck up your identity.
So much. And this was something that happened to me. And I remember when it was happening thinking, this is strange. I've never thought these things about myself before. I wonder when I changed.
Interesting.
And I identified it as my thought at first. I was like, oh, obviously this is true. I must have changed. It must be me. Until I started to realize, like, no, this keeps coming in, and there is not logical evidence that supports these thoughts.
Right.
Where are these thoughts coming from? And then I started to realize that, it was somebody else in my life who was having these thoughts about me, and I was just taking those thoughts on. Like, I was picking up on.
Interesting. And that seems like a big thing for an empath to get to the discernment of what is your thoughts versus what is somebody else's. And these thoughts I can see like 1,000 voices coming in and then just pulling you in a million different directions, and you losing track of what your voice is.
Yeah,
in the process.
Totally. Okay. And this is a big way that empaths end up creating these sorts of burnout situations for themselves, is that if they're kind of trying to like run after all these different voices or different opinions, and many of them are not even theirs, and they're like, okay, so I make this choice based on this opinion, but if it's not their opinion, they're not actually making aligned choices for their life. They're not actually creating the life they want to create. They're creating the life somebody else wants them to create.
Okay.
And that's never going to be a situation where they're going to have great energy in their life, or great zest or verve or passion or any of those things.
So let's talk about that for a second. Like there's an increased likelihood for empaths to burn out. And what is the solution to that? What is the it would seem that not traditional self care, but like proactive self care. I don't know. The first thing that came to mind was like cord cutting, right? Like that idea of cord cutting. Not that I know what it is, but like I've heard people do cord cutting, right? And I heard that it works, But like, what does that look like to help an empath not burn out?
Yeah.
The first thing is like, let's not burn out, then let's raise your energy, right? So let's look at the prevention of burnout right now.
Yeah. So the first step is always just actually clearing out other people's energy.
Okay.
And energy, I know energy is a very woo sort of thing. What do I mean when I mean energy? I mean other people's feelings, other people's thoughts, other people's opinions, all that stuff that you just are like a sponge for. It comes in. You don't even realize it comes in. So that's the first step. And then there's the step of making choices that are more aligned for you, for your true desires, your energy, what works well for you. And through this whole process is this process of building trust. So I have you ready for the real math callback?
I'm ready for the math callback. Let me get my calculator.
I have a graph.
Oh my God, it's a wave. She's dropping a wave on us. Let me see that XY axis.
There you go. There it is.
Burnout scenario.
I feel like if I could drop math on any podcast and it would still be fun, it would be yours.
It is.
I thought you would still keep it fun.
It's not because I'm Asian, is it?
No, it's because you're like the amazing
I'm kidding.
Guy.
I'm kidding.
By the way, my current studio, I had to tell you this. My current studio is named Joy. I just thought you would really appreciate that.
No shit.
Yes.
No shit. Yeah. Take a picture in front of it. In front of it. That's totally amazing.
I will.
Bring this wave back.
Okay, so here we are. So here is what...
Math is on the Golden Mic Live. So walk us through this sort of this curve.
So this is when I talk to empaths, and especially empathic healers who are really giving people. That was probably very loud. I apologize.
It's amazing.
They're really giving people. They really care. They want to make a difference for people. So here's where they start. They start like, if this is your energy, y-axis is your energy. You start here.
And the x-axis is time?
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly. Well done. You got it. So you start here, and this is maybe the beginning of your day or the beginning of your week. And then you start losing energy. And this might be when you're seeing clients, because it goes both ways. You take on your client's energy. They also can take your energy. Yeah. Or it might be, sometimes it's not even when seeing clients. Sometimes it's just contemplating your week or your day. If it's just really full and you just have no time to decompress or to reset yourself. That's another big thing that happens. But whatever it is, you start going down, you lose energy, and then you get down here. And down here, what happens is, you have to think about, like, where is this in your life? And for most of us, that when you're down here, this is like when you're spending time with family. This is like your you time. So it's like you're spending a lot of your quality time down here. That sucks. And then you do what I call inappropriate use of tools. So somehow, you got to get yourself from here back up to here. And so you start using your tools, and your tools might be meditation, or they might be EFT tapping, or they might be essential oils or crystals or massage or seeing your therapist, any of those things. Massage, it's all great. They're all great tools. But what I see people do a lot is they get down here and then they use their tools to get back up here.
Status quo.
Just back to status quo. And then the next day we start the same cycle over and over again. And it feels like you're just hanging on.
It does.
Like you can just I just have to get back up to there. And the problem with this is that a lot of these tools require some level of discipline. Like self-care requires a little bit of discipline, right?
Yes.
Yeah? Doing your meditations, doing your workouts, doing whatever. And if you're trying to use your discipline when you're down here, you don't have a lot of energy. So it's hard. It's hard to keep getting yourself back up to here. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yes, like this is very, like, I looked at it at first and I'm freaking out because I'm like, yes, but then I looked at it and I was like, oh my God, this is a very sad existence, like, because there's no growth. It's a cyclical return. It's almost like Groundhog Day, right?
Yeah.
You just go back to where you started, and there is no growth, there is no progress. It's just you're like, if you don't do the inappropriate use of tools, you could sink deeper. So you're just trying to
Wow.
get back.
And that's what happens over here. Well anticipated. Because that's exactly what happened. Like, some point, something happens where you're just like, I just don't have the energy for it. Like, you have an injury, or your crazy cousin comes to visit, or your kid gets sick, or you have a car accident, or gosh forbid, it's something big, like someone dies.
So you have a
and then
crash
you're
out.
just like, poof.
Yeah. This
There's
is
a
this
sad
is
face.
bringing this is like really, I mean, well, number one is like, okay, I'm gonna break character for a second. Like, I can totally relate to this, right? I can totally relate to this. And what's really tough is that, like, in my business, I have an hour of my day right now dedicated to inappropriate use of tools to get me back up. And the thing is that fortunately, my business is going back up. But during the inappropriate use of tools time, I am taking calls still, and I'm doing this other stuff, and I feel myself crashing, and I feel myself resenting people while I'm on the phone, and like, it's really telling with this curve what can happen, you know? Like, and like, I was like, yes, during my inappropriate use of tools time, like, I'm crashing harder if I take that call. And like,
Yeah.
I'm not in full service because I'm resenting that time, because I'm like, I'm supposed to be taking this time to myself, no boundaries, blah 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 blah. I get super guilty because I'm like, why is it that I'm resenting this person right now? Like, you know, why can't I create a healthy boundary? Like,
Yeah.
you know, I told myself that I wouldn't take this call, and I'm taking it. So like, I just okay, back into character, Mark. So
No, but this is amazing,
Yeah.
because this is what happens. Like, this is where I was too, especially when I was super burned out.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm supposed to care about these people, and I just want them to stop bugging me. Like, go away. Stop.
Yeah.
And this is like how I felt about my clients. And I was like, this is tragic. Like, I genuinely got into this because I care about people. I wanted to help them. I've been through pain myself. A lot of the clients I work with came to me in pain, but
Yeah.
I just got to the point where I was like, well, no.
Oh,
Like,
it's so wild, and you know, and also at the same time, like, the like, if someone personal, like, if something, like, I need time to myself, like, it is pure Mark time, no connection with another human. And so if someone, like, in my personal life, or my partner or a family member wants to talk, I see myself being very short during that time as well, being like, ugh. You know, and I'm like, why am I being such a child right now? Like, they love me and they just want to know how I'm doing, and like, I'm even resenting those moments that are fulfilling in my relationship. But like,
Right.
it makes sense when you call it the inappropriate use of tool, because it feels like Sisyphus at that point, like,
Yeah.
pushing a rock up the hill, knowing that tomorrow it's going to be at the bottom of the hill, and I've got to push it back up. And so it's genius. Math is genius, empaths. For those of you who are empaths, it's genius. So, okay, so
right.
talk to me about this. There's got to be another way where I'm
right, there is.
okay,
Great
because I'm
news.
closing
There
my
is.
business if there's not. Show me
Yeah, so
math.
that was the little heartbreak moment. Right. Yeah. Right. So here's the thing, is that what I think often happens is when, especially for empathic people, but this is true for anyone who's in giving, caring professions, like you're experiencing that yourself. So what I think happens is, a lot of times when we're trying to make a change, we're making it down here at the bottom.
Yeah.
When we like taking on other people's energy, our own energy is depleted, and it's not the best place to really make aligned choices for ourselves.
Right.
So the way to break the cycle is to start making choices that are more aligned for us. So the first step in that is, like, you got to start, like, when you're at the even keel, you don't take the dive first, right? So you clear out everyone else's energy. You make sure you have your energy replenished to the best of your ability, so you're at least at even. And then you make a little aligned choice. Boop. And you go up just a little bit. And then it's life, right? So it's not like then you just go up forever. You're still living. So you go down, and maybe you go down a little bit, but only a little bit. Like this isn't nearly as far as we were down
No,
before,
not at
right?
all.
Yeah. And then you clear energy, you work, and you get back up, and then you get up a little higher, and a little higher,
Look
and a
at
little
that.
higher. And then you go up and up and up. And so here's the thing. You're still using your tools. This is appropriate use of tools. Appropriate use of tools is when it's taking you a little higher each time.
So good.
You're not diving all the way back down. And it's life, so there are still ups and downs. So let's talk about what if the thing that would have taken you into your nosedive in the other graph happens here. So like something happens where you really get thrown for a loop. Boom, there's a big drop. Here's the lowest point of that drop. Do you see where I am?
Yeah.
I'm still above the line.
Yeah.
I still have energy and resources to recover. So it's not like, oh my gosh, now I have to start from way less than nothing. Like this, there's still energy here. This is you have a much better chance of recovering when you're here compared to when you're here.
Yeah.
Like the lowest point here is still higher than the highest point here.
I need to give you full screen mode so you can have like the side by side. But exactly. But what I love about it is that my first thought was that okay, there's gonna be a higher activation energy to gain more momentum, which means that there is gonna be a higher initial stress. But really, what you are talking about is moving the use of tools to an appropriate time measure so that it's a proactive appropriate use of tool versus a reactive one. And when you're in
Right.
reaction mode, all you can do at best is get back to where you started.
even.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know, I also wonder for those of you who are empaths who take that time at the very beginning of the day, right? To sit down and say, what is in alignment for me? And then as you go through the day, making sure that those choices are in alignment, like you've got the alignment written down. What is in alignment for me? And then you continue. I love this. This is like resilience for empaths.
Yeah,
If
totally.
I could relate to one. But like,
That's one of the big things. Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say that is one of the big things that I teach my clients to do is how to actually create a practice that's personalized for them that helps them to connect to their own energy at the beginning of the day.
Okay.
So that that's part of how we start already up a little bit.
I love it.
And it's not the same practice for everybody. You know, we have to figure out what works for that person, but like something that starts the day already up a little bit. So you're not just diving down.
Sure. Now talk to me about I love figure 2. Figure 2 talks about an upward trajectory. It talks about growth. Like talk about what it means to actually create that upward trajectory. Let's go and translate the math, right? Let's translate the graph into maybe a few things practical for us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so what this means is it means making choices that are more aligned for you. And those sorts of choices on a really practical level for my clients who work with clients, sorry, that seems excessively self-referential, but a lot of my clients are people who are also healers, coaches, movement teachers, body workers. So they work with clients. And so the sorts of practical choices they often need to be making are they may have to change their schedule. They may start later or end earlier or have more time off in the middle, or they may have a day that they have off. They may need a little more spaciousness just to clear their own energy field so that they're staying in a good space.
Yeah.
If they realize they need to do that, often then they need to look at maybe raising their rates or in some way adjusting, because the big reason why people often don't want to cut their hours is then they lose income, right?
Yep.
So then we may have to look at income, at how they're charging for their services, which may get into even how they're packaging their services or how they're selling. Like there's some business aspects to this.
Sure. I think one of the interesting things about this is that this is a very revealing model, and I'm feeling an initial burst of yes, like now that I see the model, I can do it on my own, right? But also at the same time, I'm looking at it and I'm like, hold on, if I don't stay connected to a person like Glidden, like going by myself, there's a lot of gremlins that are going to show up. There's a lot of like, oh my gosh, am I abandoning the people who I serve by raising my rates? There's a lot of like, there's a lot of these thoughts that are either your own, that are gremlins, limiting beliefs, or there's thoughts that are other people's, and it can get really wily and wonky up in here,
Yeah,
And
totally.
I can see why having someone to mirror back, like, okay, like let's just break this down. Let's look at the times. Let's take a nap at 1 o'clock. Like little
Yeah.
things like that, where it's catered to each person, and it's what I love about the model is it's a very simple model, but then when we actually go into the practice and the mastery of it, I can see how how you and your book can be quite helpful. By the way, if you're tuning in right now, the big surprise at the end is that she's giving her book away for free. So like the link is already there, but I will still still keep on listening here. Now, there's a practice to all of this. It sounds like,
Yeah.
possibly working with you, possibly having some things in terms of growth and evolution. What does developing a personal practice look like to an empath who is now, okay, I'm now avoiding burnout, but I want to go into a trajectory of growth? What does that look like?
Yeah. So the first stage is actually just learning how to clear your energy, how to clear other people's perspectives, how to clear anything that you've taken on from other people so that you're not operating from that perspective. You're not making your choices from that perspective. So the first thing is just clearing. And then there's actually the practice of restoring your own energy. So anywhere that like you've given your energy away or somebody has taken it, you actually pull your energy back to you so that you are really fully embodied in your own energy.
Yeah.
So those are the first two steps. And then the it's really like a 3-step process. It's really clear your energy, bring your own energy back, and then start making choices that are aligned to you. And this is actually where I find that people have the biggest challenge.
Yep.
Because you can kind of clear your energy and restore your energy. That's what I used to see a lot of people do the inappropriate use of tools for. Is to like kind of clear and restore. But making aligned choices is really what makes the difference between the graph number 1 and graph number 2, right? It's the choices. And so here's why I think this is so hard for empaths, especially. Is because there are two things. Number one, that when you make a choice, and choice, I don't just mean like you sat on your couch and you made a decision. By choice, I mean you actually take a new, different action. And when you take a new, different action, it closes off certain possibilities. And what most empaths I find are really craving, especially if they're living a lot of their lives down here, low on the graph, is freedom.
Yep.
And making a choice that closes off possibilities doesn't feel like freedom at that moment. So sometimes that's where you really have to like step into that trust of like, no, I'm making this choice to actually create more freedom down the line. This is actually how I create freedom, because the sort of knee-jerk reaction is this is going to make less freedom for me.
Oh yeah, I can totally see that being like, it's totally crimping my style, man. That's not me. That's not me. It's narrowing me down, and the reason why I'm saying in that way is because like that's my own voice saying it, right? It's narrowing your style, Cordone, but also at the same time, like the clearing out is almost like it's not only an increase of space, but the fact that you showed growth means that you have an increase of capacity as well. So one way that the visual that I got was that, if you have this glass, right, a container, right, the first thing that you do is you remove other people's straws. That's like the clearing out, right? The restoring is like, okay, let's fill the glass back up so you can have a like a refreshing glass of water for yourself, because right now it's empty because other people sucking out you're letting other people suck from your cup. And then the third thing, which I see as really being the hard part, is imagining that this glass can actually expand. That's the miracle. is the glass can expand in part three. And so like you can actually even hold more water, and then if you want, someone can come in when you allow it, they can drink a little bit, but they're not going to deplete you to no water anymore, right? I don't know if that
Right.
makes
And it's
sense.
like you actually start to learn how to make the glass self-refilling. So
Woo!
like
I
as
love it.
people
Yeah.
drink out of it, it's not like the water is gone and then you have like, it's just kind of the levels always coming back up.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. So
Uh,
like there's a magic self-refilling mechanism in your glass.
It's amazing. It's
I
connected
love
to
it.
a source hose, right? So like,
Exactly.
I absolutely love it, and I think you bring the metaphor back, and that would also mean that like when you were talking about, well, I was disengaged, I was disconnected, I was just doing things on my to do. When you're connected to that source hose and it's always being full, the cup runneth over, baby, right? And when the
Yeah.
cup is runneth over, you're engaged, you're joyful, you're you're able to give and not be sucked dry. You're able to avoid burnout while working with clients and have more energy. It makes sense.
Yeah, and you just feel better in your whole life. You have more of a sense of who you are. Like I started reconnecting with things that I actually enjoy doing that I kind of forgot that I enjoyed doing when I was really depleted and I wasn't really in touch with myself.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's great. There's one other big thing I want to mention that
Yeah.
is a big thing that holds empaths back from making aligned choices. And that is that if they've made a lot of choices from other people's energy, then they will lose trust in them. The result of that is usually not good. Like they will usually keep going further and further down in their energy. Does that part
Okay.
make sense?
Yeah,
So
it
then they
does.
lose trust. They lose trust in their ability to make good choices for themselves.
Oh, and I mean, I
So,
could see that turning into things like hiding,
yeah.
the feeling that you're shrinking, right? Like,
Or just the feeling that this is all that's possible for you.
which is a very nihilistic view for an empath on life.
Which isn't always at the conscious level, but
Yeah,
at some level, I see this all the time. Like, oh, yeah, other people get to make money, other people get to have fun in their lives. That's not really what I am allowed
that's
to do.
it's almost like a victim type of thing. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I
So that can happen. So, like, this is the big thing is knowing it's possible.
okay, so you're totally wearing down my Golden Mike character, right? And you know, something that I have been working on my energy, right? So I document it every day, and one of the things that's been really difficult in the past year for me, but I think I get better and better at it every day, is this idea of receiving. How much do you see your empaths or people in general that you work with, and how much is receiving, critical or not, to this entire process of a growth trajectory?
I would say it's central.
Okay, okay,
Yeah. I mean, so empaths are often healers and healers are often empaths because empaths feel the pain of other people. So they want to do something about it. Right. And this is also true for anyone who's in a giving profession. They want to give, they want to care for other people. And getting on this upward trajectory, you have to be able to feel safe receiving for yourself. And if on some level, what feels safe to you, how you keep yourself safe in the world, how you keep other people happy, how you meet their needs is by giving, you actually have to redefine your what is safe
yeah,
in order to have it even be possible to get on that upward trajectory, because what is safe is receiving. That's the only way to get on that upward trajectory. You do have to actually be able to receive. And I mean, it's going to feel at the beginning like receiving more than you give, right?
it
Like, because
totally
you're
does.
used to
I,
thinking about, I give this much, I receive this much. This is fair and even. No, you have way more to give when you're up here.
yep, I can see that totally being interpreted from the standpoint of, well, if I actually look at that graph, well, I'm becoming more of a taker than I am a receiver, and I feel like that's an illusion or a misnomer of things, because initially that was the thing. I was like, oh my god, that's amazing, that's growth, and then I was like, wait, I'm rejecting this because why am I rejecting this? And I'm like, ooh, there's a receiving part of this again. For you,
Yeah,
did you go through a
super
receiving
insightful.
did you go through something?
Oh,
Okay.
oh yeah. Here's the thing about the trajectory, right? Like this isn't like I arrived on this plateau and then I lived on the golden plateau forever. It's ongoing. It's ongoing. It's always like, okay, I've learned to receive. I was even talking to a client about this literally yesterday. She has a great, successful business. Lots of things are going great. She's like, but I'd really love to add $120,000 in the next
Yeah.
year to my income. And I can't do that. Why not? It's like we all have the ceiling of how much we think we're allowed to receive.
Yeah. Yeah. Amazing. And so
So
that's
yeah,
an
it's
expansion as well.
continually working on changing that ceiling. Is That's a big part of the work too, for
You want to
sure.
you want to know what's a big part of the work?
What's a big
53 minutes of flow. Can you believe we've been on for 53 straight minutes? Isn't that amazing? We get a wow face at the end. Y'all, there probably is a person in your life, if not yourself, that may be ready to hear a message like this. That's why I encourage you to share this message out. I encourage you to go thrivinghealerbook.com. This thing is a bestseller, and you have been so kind to gift this to the community. Thrivinghealer.com or thrivinghealerbook.com is the book. Heather Glidden, just click on the name. I made it easier for you. Click on the name. Receive. Start working on that trajectory. The timing of things is perfect. Look at you. You're turning me into a woo person here. I'm a scientific positive psychologist. You're turning me into a woo.
I brought crafts. I brought
You
crafts.
did. You brought crafts and broke me down. You broke the scientist down. Now, here's the thing, Glidden. I don't know if you've made it to this part of any show, but this is why it's called the Golden Mic. And you've done life coaching before, so visualizations hopefully won't be too much of a difficulty or a stretch for me to invite you into right now. But if you will, I want to close out the show with this. A golden mic is coming down from your ceiling and coming to rest in front of you. Look at you receiving that golden mic, sister. That's a huge mic. Now, this golden mic does have the power to amplify to every person and translate to every language all across the world and all across this multiverse. And so there may be a few people, there probably is a few people who need to pick up what you're about to throw down, who need to hear what it is that you're about to say. So when I hit the golden mic, you go live, Heather. Heather Glidden, your golden mic goes live now.
What I want you to know is that thriving is your birthright. Thriving is your birthright. There is more, far beyond just survival, just getting by. And you have the chance, you have the option to give yourself permission to want that. The more that you thrive, the more that you can allow everyone around you to thrive. The richer your work is, the more inspired, and the more you actually have to give to everyone else.
Amazing. Heather, I want you to take that golden mic and just feel the weight for a second because I'm about to turn it off. But before you do, just hold the mic in front of you. Yeah, I want you to smash that golden mic, Glidden! Stomp on it! Double stomp on it! Smash it with both forearms! Donkey kick it! Donkey kick it! Glidden, you are so much fun! Who are you? Where have you been my whole life? This is amazing! This has been Golden Mike 160. Now here's the thing. We believe in social media for social good, but we're also turning off the Facebooks for the weekend. We're turning off the Golden Mic so we can spend time with real people and real things and fill up in real ways. We encourage you to do the same after sharing this out. And here's the final question that Heather and I have for you. I gotta catch my breath after stomping on that Golden Mic. Here's the question that we have for you. If you're feeling good and you're living in your full purpose, what is your responsibility to change history for the better? Golden Mike 160, Mark Cordone, Heather Glidden, thank you all for tuning in.
Thank you, Mark.
Okay.